students. All right, let's do lab 6, animate the lights. I feel like it's like the Muppets. In this lab, you'll add keyframes to animate the lamps, brightness, and color settings. Goals for the lesson: set the F-curve editor to show energy and RGB curves. Add default keyframes for all the stage's lamps. Add a color and brightness animation to the main lamp. Lighting keyframe types. Lighting keyframes lets you make changes to the lamps in your project. There are several lighting keyframe types, but you'll use only 2 of them in this project. To add lighting keyframes, the mouse pointer needs to be in the lamp buttons panel. Click the buttons to learn more about 2 of the lighting keyframe types. So this is energy. Energy keyframes let you change the lamp and brightness. And RGB keyframes let you change the lamp colors. All right. Quiz. To change the brightness of a lamp in an animation, what type of lighting keyframe would you use? RGB, axis, energy, or power? I'm going to go for energy. The correct answer is C, energy. Default lighting is the lighting your project starts out with before you animate. You created default lighting in the previous labs. Before you start animating lamps, it's a good idea to create keyframes to save the default lighting settings. When you have mini lamps, all with many RGB and energy keyframes, it can be easy to lose track of the default settings. On the next page, you'll add RGB and energy keyframes for your lamps on frame 125. This way, if you ever need to go back to a lamp's default lighting settings, you can get them on frame 125. Okay, so we are going to go to the current frame and type in 125 and hit enter. Okay, and we're going to just add keyframes to all of our lights, and that's going to save those as our default pretty much. So we've already got our lamp spotlight selected. You could hit just right click on that outline of lamp spotlight and go select just to make sure it's selected. If you want to hit A first, in case you have more than one object selected, you can just hit A to deselect, and then once again right click here to select just the lamp spotlight. Okay, and then what you do to create a keyframe is you just go down here in your properties area and you click on the data tab if it's not already, and then you're going to just right click and let's see, right click and insert a keyframe. Okay, and then that's for the RGB box, right? And then for your energy box, you're going to right click and insert the keyframe. Okay, so they're both kind of highlighted in yellow now that you've got a keyframe inserted. And we'll just go down the outline and do that for all of the lamps. So starting with lamp ambient L, right click on it and select it. Actually, I had to left click on it first and then right click to select. And you'll just head right over here to the RGB color box and click insert keyframe. And then in the energy box, you'll right click and insert keyframe. Perfect. Then, you know, for some reason they didn't do lamp ambient R, so I'm going to assume it's because the settings are the same as L. So the next lamp on the list is the lamp backlight. So you can scroll back and see that it is selected. All I did was click on it, so I guess you don't have to right click. You can just left click to select it. Right click on that RGB box and insert keyframe, and then right click on that energy box and insert keyframe. And we don't need to do it with the R because that has the same settings as L. We already did the backlight, so let's do the lamp fill L, and that selected it. You can scroll back and see that it's selected. Right click on that RGB color box and insert keyframe, and right click on that energy box and insert a keyframe. And seems like we've also got an overhead lamp. Oh wait, did we? Yeah, we did the backlight, because if you click on that you can see. So we did the fill L. Let's look at lamp overhead. Okay, that one hasn't been done yet. You can tell because it's not highlighted in yellow. So right click on it, insert keyframe for both the RGB box and the energy box, and then let's just click on lamp spotlight. And sure enough, so we've got keyframe set at frame 125. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to dim the main lamp at the very beginning and at the end. So I'm just scrolling in, and I'm going to click on the main lamp here, and to dim it at the beginning we need to be at the first frame. So you're going to go to your current frame and type 1. Okay, and down here at energy, assuming that in your properties area you have data selected, down here for energy you'll type a 0 energy in frame 1. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing, oops, but you've got to right click on that energy box, sorry, and insert a keyframe there. Okay, good job. Let's see. Now, I don't remember the tutorial saying to add the keyframes at 125, but I'm going to go ahead and go to 125. That made it so that the energy was still 0. Let me check this out. Okay, I just realized that I skipped the main lamp, so oopsie doopsie. Click on your main lamp and select it, and then right click and insert a keyframe at your RGB box, and in your energy box insert keyframe as well. Okay, so that's at frame 125. Now what we're going to do is, for this main lamp, is we're going to dim it at the beginning and the end of the program. So our start frame is 1, so enter your current frame as 1 to take us to the beginning, and you're going to, in your energy box, click 0 and hit enter, and then I want you to right click on that energy box and insert a keyframe there. Okay, so the energy is going to be 0, so it's going to be dim at frame 1, and then we're going to go to the end, and the end is 250. So in your current frame type in 250 and enter to take us to that last frame, and once again click on that energy box, type in 0 and right click and insert a keyframe. Okay, this properties panel is taking up a lot of room, so I just am going to drag the left side of it in to collapse it. Remember that you can bring it back up just by clicking on that plus. So just drag it and collapse it, and then drag the left edge of this curves area so that you can see your curves. Okay, right now it doesn't matter, you're not really going to be able to see any changes in this image over here, so don't worry about that. You just want to make sure that you can see the curves. Okay, now what we're doing is we're scrolling all the way down and we're looking for our lamps. Okay, and right now, since you have your lamp main selected, the lamp main is highlighted here. Underneath there's a little spot drop down box, so click on that, and there are your RGB selections and your energy, so what you set down here. Okay, so we're going to just click on energy, and mine's already selected, so it's white. And I want to just kind of explain, if you are on your red color, you'll notice that that is going to be a red curve, and that is just a straight line. If you're on your green color, it's going to be a green one, and it's also a straight line, and the blue one is also straight, and that's just because the light is consistent. It's just steady all the way from frame 1 here at the beginning all the way to frame 250 here at the end, the color that you have selected is consistent, okay? That's why they are flat. Now, when you look at energy, however, and that's kind of that interesting sci-fi green color, when you look at energy, you'll notice that it starts at 0. It goes all the way up to, if you click here, 0.75, and then at the end, it goes back to 0, okay? And the reason why is because, remember, we set that keyframe here at frame 125, and then we also set the keyframe to dim it. We set it to 0 at frame 1, and we set it to 0 at frame 250. So that's why our curve is looking this way, okay? So what we want to do is, instead of having it be really dim for a long, long time and then subtly, gradually climbing to be at the peak in the middle of the animation and then all of a sudden getting dark, dark, dark and being super dim for a long time, what we want is for it to be dim just at the beginning, and then for that curve to go right up to the top and then be brightly lit the entire animation, and then to dim just at the end. So to do that, we're going to have to duplicate this keyframe that we made, remember, in the middle. So you want to make sure you're on the right keyframe. Look at all these different keyframes that we have here, okay? Because we made keyframes for all of those different lamps. But all we want is the energy lamp of our main lamp, and that's the one that's in green. So right click to select just that one. Now notice if you right click on the wrong one, you'll accidentally get the red of one of your lamps, okay? So make sure that you have the keyframe selected that goes with that sci-fi green color, okay? And then you're going to duplicate it. But before you do, I just want you to scroll out so that you can kind of see where you're at on the curve. All right, so one frame that I want you to pay attention to is over here on the right, okay? This is telling us where we're at. We're at frame 125, okay? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna duplicate that keyframe that we just selected by right-clicking on it, and we are going to slide that duplicate over to frame 50. And as we're sliding it over to frame 50, you're going to notice that it tells us what frame we're at here. So you'll be able to see frame 50 there. So it's selected. You're going to hit Shift D for duplicate. And now when you move your, whoops, something didn't go right there. I'm gonna, hold on. Let me hit it again. Shift D for duplicate. Okay, now it worked. And you'll notice if you move your cursor around, that frame will just move all over. So you've got to constrain it to the X axis. To do that, you have to click the letter X. And now when you move, you'll notice that it stays right on the X axis. Okay, I'm not pressing any mouse buttons. I'm just moving my mouse. So I'm going to just move my mouse over to the left until it gets to 50. Remember on the right in that little box that says frame, I told you you'd see when you get there when it says 50. All right, and then just click, left click, and that will put that duplicate frame right in place. So here's what we wanted, right? We wanted it to be dim, then we wanted those lights to come right on, and we want those lights to stay brightly lit all the way to the end. So let's do it again. I'm gonna slide in, scroll in, and right click to select that keyframe that's right on that green path or curve, and scroll back out so you can see what you're doing now that you have it selected, and hit Shift D to duplicate it, hit X to constrain it to the X axis, and then slide over to the right until your frame box says you're at about 200. Okay, and then click, and that will set it in place. Perfect. So now your light is brightly lit all the way across, and then at the very end, it's just going to dim and become dark. Perfect. Okay, so the next thing they want us to do is they want us to change the color of this main lamp here at the beginning and at the end of the animation. So we're going to hit our current keyframe box here and type in a 1 to bring us to the first frame. And then down here at your, as long as you have your data selected, click on your RGB color box, and you're going to change the R value to 0 and the G value to 0. And what that does is makes it so that the only color selected is this blue. So it's blue. And right click on that to insert the keyframe of that blue color there. Okay. Now let's do the same thing for frame 250. So in your current box, type 250, and we're just going to change it to that same blue color. So you're going to right click on your RGB box. Oops, not right click on it. Sorry, just click on it and change your R to 0, your G to 0, and that makes it blue. So right click and insert that keyframe there. Okay, good job. Okay, so now we're going to have more fun with curves. Are you ready? I'm going to have you scroll in again so that you can see exactly what we're looking at. Okay, now over here, I want you to click. We know which one is the energy, right? We know that that's the sci-fi green, okay? But there's a bunch of blues and reds, and I want to make sure that we're selecting the right one. So click on the R, okay? There's going to be the keyframe for R. Click on the G. There's the keyframe for G way up here. Click on the B. I got kind of a bad feeling about this. I'm going to hold down Shift so that it scrolls down and I can see a little better. And so I can get in a little bit closer. I'm going to select the R for color. Hold down Shift and select G and B. So I've got R, G, and B selected and lit up right now so I can see where they're at. There's blue, there's green, and there's red. All right. We are going to take and make a box around them. So I'm going to hit the B for box, and then I'm just going to select those 3 keyframes, the blue, the green, and the red. And I'm going to do the same thing I just did. I'm going to duplicate them and slide them over. So I'm going to scroll back so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to hold down Shift D to duplicate, hold down X so that they stay on the X axis, and then move them over until your frame, which is over on the right, goes to about 50, and click to drag them there. Do that again. This is kind of intense. So if you didn't get it that first time, what I want to select is R. I'm gonna hold down Shift and get the G and the red. Okay, so let's see, which ones are there? R is here for red, G, green, B, blue. Okay, so just holding down Shift, getting them selected, hitting the B because I'm going to draw a box around them, and perfect. So those keyframes are selected, and now I am going to, and for some reason it keeps on selecting the energy. What can I do? They're all together. I'm following the K-12 directions. I don't know what I can do. So I'm just going to hit Shift D to duplicate that, and then hit X so that it will only slide on the X axis. And then I'm going to drag right until I'm at frame 200. So I'm just looking at, just dragging to the right and looking, and as soon as that frame gets at 200, I just click. I can scroll back out. I could have scrolled out earlier so I could see what I was doing. All right, so let's go ahead and save what we've done. Save as. You're going to change this to version 6 and hit enter twice. Perfect. And let's see what we have done today. Today, you set the F curve editor to show energy and RGB curves. You added default keyframes for all of the stage's lamps, and you added a color and brightness animation to the main lamp. And I hope that I made it clear for you. And congratulations, you have finished lab 6.